welcome to my YouTube channel. If you don't know me, I am a fashion and beauty photographer living and working in Los Angeles. A lot of people are asking about how I moved to Los Angeles, as I'm originally from London, and I thought I would share that in the video today. When I started my freelance career, I was working so hard for so many years. I was so poor, I could never afford to go on holiday at all, and yeah, just working. Every last bit of money I had, I put towards more camera equipment or renting a studio space for a day, or stuff like that. Eventually, I managed to save up a little bit of money, and me and one of my friends, we really felt like going on holiday because we've both been working so hard the last few years. Where do we want to go? We were thinking, oh, we really want to go to America. We'd never been before. We were deciding between New York and LA, but we decided on LA because I think we went in March or April, in New York, I think the weather was still a bit cold. So we decided to go to LA to visit Hollywood like in the movies. We got an Airbnb in West Hollywood. We stayed there for 2 weeks and we had the best time. And we just went out for brunch and went to the beach and went shopping. And yeah, so I had a great time, came back to London, and I just couldn't wait to go back again. And then that December, I saved up, went there again to visit LA. And we we did one night in Vegas as well. So we rented a car, drove all the way to Vegas, spent the night there, and the next day went shopping around in Vegas and then drove back. We were so exhausted, but it was so fun. And then I went again to LA, and then I went to New York. But yeah, I went a few times to LA, absolutely loved it, and I could just see myself there in the future. Came back to London, kept working. A few of my friends from London had started moving out to LA for work and absolutely loved it. So I started asking around about visas, and I found out that it could be possible. Now, every law firm is different, and I know that the laws change year after year, but I remember for me at the time, I needed the following. I needed, one was high income, which is not necessarily over the whole year, but per day. So if your day rate is, I think, more than 60 to 70 pounds an hour or something, then I think you're in the high income range. And then number two, you also need connections to big companies. Therefore, having shot for bigger magazines or high street brands and stuff like that. And at the time, I had shot for Vogue India, GQ UK. I did a lot of Elle Online things, and I can't remember completely off the top of my head, but I had enough to qualify for that. And what was interesting was that even just my name being credited under a photo on Vogue.com was actually more important than, for example, a 10-page editorial in a smaller indie magazine. So, just so you know where to focus on. It's the more highly acclaimed the fashion house, that's sort of what counted the most. And what else was there? So yeah, number three is you need industry people to write you sort of beaming reviews. So you basically need letters of recommendation from anybody that you know that is high up in the industry, high up in magazines that I'd worked with, because I think as well, you need to have worked with them, and you need to show the call sheet and the payment transactions and everything like that. So it needs to be people you have officially worked for, that like your work, so then they can write a letter of recommendation. And then you also need some job offers from the US for either contracts or freelance work and stuff like that. You just need I think it's 3 or 4 ongoing contracts or jobs. So as you start to get more industry links and stuff in the US, but from the UK to the US, basically as I started shooting for bigger brands and cooler models and stuff, people in LA had basically started to see my work, and therefore some of them offered me like contracts and freelance roles and stuff like that. So that all added together. Again, I'm not a visa lawyer, and these things may have changed. There might be a few things I've missed off, but those are generally the things that you need. I do think now social media also plays a part in it. So, for example, if you've photographed a celebrity and the celebrity posts the image and it has over 50,000 or 100,000 likes, I think that also counts. And yeah, you can, I remember the last visa, you can screenshot things from celebrities' accounts and, obviously include the links and stuff as to the photos that you've taken. And you just need evidence that you're out and about in the industry, doing things, and you're working with top people and they like you, basically. Yeah, so it's a big selection of things, and yeah, just to take screenshots, and this is what you should do anyway, but if you're trying to build up work for your green card, just, your O1 visa, which is the one that I did, just Google yourself and find all the things that you've done that are online that, are for companies of a certain scale. And yeah, just screenshot it and then add it to a folder, and then just keep building up that evidence as the years go on. And then when it comes to the time where you're going to apply for your visa, then at least you've got it all there. Try and as well copy the hyperlink if you can, and also screenshot with the hyperlink at the top. Yeah, just as much evidence as you can, I think is always good. But that's the visa that I got, because I know different visas work in different ways, but for me the O1 visa made the most sense. Yeah, and then so there's 2 different ways to do the visa. Either you send it off and it can take 3 to 4 months to come back, approved or non-approved, or you can pay, I think it's an extra $1,500 or something like that to get it pushed speedy, which means it will come back in 10 days. I think it's 10 working days. So if you're in a rush, then that's a good way to go. If the jobs you're earning from are going to make you more money than $1,500, then it makes sense to do that. I will say as well, the whole visa process from start to end, especially now, I think there's just so many delays, it does take around a year. For me, my last renewal took just over a year. They always tell you it's going to take 3 or 4 months, but that's just not the case, from start to end, because first of all, you've got to find a lawyer and then make sure they're good, and then speak to them about the whole process. And visa costs can range. It really depends on what law firm you go to, and if it's your friend's mate that's doing you a deal, I'm sure you can get a good discount, but it can get expensive. I'd say it's anywhere between $3,000 to $10,000, depending on what law firm you use. If you go for speedy processing, there's so many other costs involved. It might even be a bit more than 10,000. It might be more like £10,000. So it's very expensive, and it only really makes sense if you're doing it and you're definitely going to be earning a lot of money. But if it's your dream, then it's definitely something to save up for. Something that is good is that you can pay in installments. So for example, I didn't have all the money up front to do the renewal, but by the time that obviously it was spaced out over a year, and I managed to make the payments throughout the year. So yeah, that's something to bear in mind. And then, so yeah, you send the visa off, whether you did the 10 days or the 3 months, and then eventually you get an answer. And sometimes it comes back no, and then you can send it off for like a second look or something if they think you've got a strong case. Luckily, both times mine came back as a yes straight off. And what you need to do then is you get like a special number. I can't remember the name of it, and but your lawyer will tell you all this. You get a number, and then you have to go on like the US Embassy website and enter this like 35-page form, and then you have to make sure, if you do this, that you have to only do it on certain browsers, because one time I did like all the 35 pages. It took me literally about 4 hours, and then because I wasn't on the right browser, I couldn't actually press the finish button. So make sure you're using the recommended browsers, because that gave me a headache. And then yeah, you have to do this form, and then once you've got your certification number from that long form thing, you then you can then book your embassy appointment with that number. And then the embassy waiting times are like, this one I'm telling you, it takes over a year. The embassy waiting times can be anywhere from like 10 days to like 2 or 3 months. I think when I did my last one, it was about a month, maybe 3 weeks. And yeah, it's a long time, and the embassy appointments are all at like 7 a.m. and you have to be at the US Embassy in London or wherever you are at like 5 a.m. to even start queuing up, because the queue is crazy. And it's not like you have your appointment at 7, it's like 300 or 400 people in a queue to get in at 7 a.m. So you need to be at the front of that queue. And recently, when I got there the last time, I was so early. I was actually the front of the queue. But then they divided the queue in half, and then I was only halfway through the queue, and I was like, oh my, like, how have I done this? But yeah, so then you go into the embassy, and then they ask you a bunch of questions. It feels scary, but like, if you haven't done anything wrong, there's no reason to be scared. It's just like, it just feels very official, so it can be a bit like daunting, but it should be totally fine. The first time took a lot longer than the second time that I did it. The second time was pretty quick. You give them your passport, and then they do the whole visa insert stamp thing, and they take your passport from you. And then and then you're passportless for a week or so. I think it's like a week to 2 weeks, and then they basically send you back your passport. The best thing to do is to get it sent to a nearby pickup point, in my opinion, because I've had it delivered before to my house, and it just takes so much longer to come. If you're in a rush, definitely get it delivered to a pickup point. But bear in mind, most pickup points close at like 4 p.m. So you have to get there in time and, leave early from work or whatever to get it. And then, yeah, when you get your passport back, you can officially book your flight. I would say don't book your flight until you get your passport back, just because it can take a while, and you don't want to like book a flight and then have to change it. So I'd say, depending on your situation, potentially book the flight once you've got your passport back in your hand. Yeah. So yeah, then you got your passport, and then go to LA. And then, yeah, depending on the contracts you have, whether they start immediately or whether they take a while or whether they're freelance. What I did when I first got my visa, because my projects were sort of a month here, a month there, I just came to LA for a few weeks at a time, here and there when I needed to. And then while I was here, because under my visa, I can work for various other companies as well. So I just came and then, networked more, met more people, and shot with more models, and did a bunch of beauty campaigns and fashion campaigns. And for the 3 years that I had the first visa, I was just coming back and forth. I didn't have enough money to fully move, even though I wanted to. So I was going back and forth, just earning as much money as I could in London, LA, and and then I renewed the visa for the second time, and then went through that whole process again. And obviously at that point I'd done way more projects and way more high-end clients, so I felt a bit more safe about my visa. And then I came back to LA, and so basically my second visa got renewed in August 2019, and I officially moved to LA on the 2nd of January 2020. It's obviously terrible timing with coronavirus now happening. So back to the practical side of things. So what you should do the first time that you come to the US after your visa is approved is set up your social security number. So I think you have to go to a social security registration place, and you take your passport and you tell them that I'm here to register my social security number. I think as well, when you get your visa, they give you this paperwork as well. So I'd say to bring that paperwork with you and just make sure you've got everything. Your lawyer will tell you all the information about this. But you go there, then you get your social security number, and then you can legally work. And also with invoices, you have to get a W-9, which is just a tax form that you have to send off with every invoice that you make. Also, make sure you get insurance, work insurance and health insurance, to cover both your home country and the US. Also, if you're coming from the UK, bank accounts can be pretty difficult to set up an American bank account, especially because you can't get an apartment in LA without having a US bank account, pretty much. And you can't get a bank account without having an apartment. So the only way around this is to set up an account with HSBC in the UK, and then you can get an HSBC US account, but you have to have your social security number and everything in place to be able to do that. So you need to have the social security number, you have to have the W-9, you have to have a bunch of other information, that you're legally allowed to work. And oh my God, setting up the bank account literally took me a year. I would say just to start getting everything in place and then give them your tax forms and stuff once you've actually got to the US. But setting up that bank account was so tricky. But once I had that bank account, I could then get an apartment. And once I got the apartment, I could technically get another bank account, but I just haven't got around to it yet because of coronavirus and everything. So that's how the bank account thing works. Oh my God, it took so long. HSBC, you need to get your act together. Now that I've got it, HSBC are amazing, but for some reason I think there was just a lot of problems in the cross-country communication when I was trying to set it up. So I'd say for the first few trips you come out here, find, more clients if your visa permits that. Have as many meetings as you can, do a lot of testing, get your name out there, and then get an apartment once your income is steady and, you have a bit of savings. This whole move, it costs a lot, like it really does. And, for the cost of me moving to LA, I probably could have put a deposit on a house in the UK, but then I wouldn't have some of the money had I not been coming to LA. So it's kind of a catch-22, and the rates out in the US are so much higher than in the UK. I think obviously the population is 300 million, and in the UK the population is only 60 million, so there's more people to sell to. So I guess there's a bigger industry, there's more brands. And it's really hard because LA, I feel, is my home, but then I feel like London is my home. So it's definitely weird. I kind of feel like when I'm in London, I feel homesick for LA, and then when I'm in LA, I feel homesick for London. So I guess I'm never going to win. But the LA life is just incredible. I mean, you wake up, it's sunny, and obviously it's only incredible if you're earning enough money and stuff. If you're being kicked out of your house and stuff like that, it's obviously going to be terrible, but that's the same case as anywhere. But there's a lot of people say that LA is fake. Personally, I don't find that. I think there's fake people everywhere. And if you find a really nice crowd of friends and people, I feel like it's an amazing place to be. I just felt, I love New York, but I felt more connected to LA. I feel like if you're trying to make that decision, you should spend equal time in both places. One thing I haven't done is get a driving license or a car. I just haven't got around to it. I've been so busy working the last few years that I've either not had any money or not had any time. So yeah, it's definitely a big jump, and I know none of us are going to be doing this soon because of coronavirus and everything, and who knows what the world's going to be like. But yeah, if you have any more questions about my move to Los Angeles, please comment down below. I'm happy to help, and if anybody needs any extra tips and tricks, I'm happy to give my input on it. But until coronavirus happened, it was the best thing I've ever done. And the best decision I've ever made. So yeah, please comment down below and let me know what you'd like to see in the next video. Bye.